Hey, welcome back to another tutorial. Today we're going to take a look at the CharacterForceField component. This component is quite complicated, but it's useful for things like trampolines, bounce pads, or fans which sort of throw you up into the ceiling, etc. that you'll see in certain games. We're just going to be creating a basic example today, but it should show you that the component exists and how to get started with it. Let's get going. I'm going to hop over into Smooth POV, and you'll see that I've got a trampoline here. The trampoline here was spawned from Neos Essentials gadgets, and it looks exactly like this in the inventory folder, so you can take a look at it. Once it's spawned in the world, you can go ahead and set yourself to walk around locomotion. CharacterForceField only works in walk around locomotion or the physical fly locomotion. We're now going to go ahead and jump on top of this, and you'll see I bounce up in the air. So let's remake this. I'm going to move to the left a little bit, so away from the trampoline, and then with my developer tooltip, I'm going to create a box. We're not going to do something as beautiful as the trampoline over there, but we're going to do a basic box here for our trampoline. With the box created, I'm going to go ahead and shrink it down using the green guide here, so it's more a sort of sheet, and then use the middle corner thing here to drag it so it's a big wide sheet. There we go, there's our trampoline. I'm going to hop back into walk around just so everything works, and now I'm going to go ahead and attach the CharacterForceField component. To do that, I'm going to aim at the box here and hit secondary, which will select it, and then go to Open Inspector. Once the inspector is open, we need to attach that CharacterForceField component. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and set the character collider box of the box collider to on. This just means that we can walk into that box. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach the CharacterForceField component. So that's attach component, locomotion, interaction, CharacterForceField. Now inside CharacterForceField, we can start talking about the properties on CharacterForceField. I'm not aware of what all of these properties do, so I'll cover ones that I do know, and we'll leave the other ones for any questions that you might have. I'll take some time and figure out what they do if you've got questions about them. So the first item on the list is force. Force is a float 3, which is a three-dimensional float, and it specifies which direction we want the force to be applied in. As we want the user to go bounce up and down, we need to apply the force upwards. Up is known as the Y component of a float 3, and you can also see that it is up by this green arrow on the check on the box here. This is pointing up, so that's the Y component. So we go ahead here and set the Y component to be 10, and this means it will apply a force of 10 upwards. Underneath this is the force modes selector. This will toggle between various modes. I'm not entirely sure what all of them do, but I do know what a few of them do. So constant force will apply a constant force whilst I'm inside the collider volume. Impulse will just apply a brief impulse of that force. Set velocity will set the velocity of your character to be the value entered in the force. Set component will set only the component specified, so it'll ignore any other forces that are happening. So an example here is if you're moving horizontally, which will be in the X or Z component, it won't reset those to 0, which you can see here are set as 0. It will just set the Y one because that's greater than 0. Constant velocity will keep you at a constant velocity of this value whilst you're inside the collision volume. I think we're back around to constant force. For the trampoline here, we want to set it to set velocity. For space refers to the space which the calculation will be done in. Leave this on slot for now. You can also set it to character space, character forward, character velocity, radial constant, radial proportional, and various other things. I'm not quite sure how those work, so leave it on slot right now. Radial force radius doesn't matter unless we're using radial forces. The force slot space is similar to the force space here, just leave it alone for now. Min activation velocity will be the minimum velocity you need to travel before the force is applied. We're going to leave that as 0 because we don't really mind, and you'll be falling down onto it anyway. Max force velocity will be the maximum force that can be applied. Hold jump max force will be the max force that can be applied whilst you're holding jump. More on that in a moment. Preserve direction across plane. I'm not quite sure what that one does. Ignore parent user will ignore users which it's parented to. So for example, if you had a force field parented to a user, like a shield, then it would ignore you. No jump multiplier is how much of the force is applied when you're not jumping. So if you are setting that to 0.5, then half the force will be applied if you're not jumping. Hold jump multiplier will be how much force is applied if you are holding jump whilst you're colliding with the character force field. Max character velocity is the maximum character velocity that can be set. Min character velocity is the minimum velocity that can be set. Character velocity dampening speed, I don't know. It's probably something to do with slowing it down as you're moving through it. Might be interesting to play with. I do realize that I didn't explain many of those properties that well. That's because I'm just trying to focus on one activity here, which is getting this trampoline working. With the properties set as they are, which are 10 on the Y component here, set velocity slot, and everything else left as default, you should have a trampoline working. Let's bounce up and down. There we go. I'm now bouncing up and down on my box, which I just created. To show one more thing, I'm going to go ahead and change the hold jump multiplier to be 1.5 here. And then what you'll notice is if I jump on this normally, I'll go to the same height. But if on the downfall I hold down jump, I'll go a little bit higher. That's probably the equivalent of when you're on a trampoline, when you kind of, kick down into the trampoline as you go down to it, rather than just falling naturally, so that you apply more force into the trampoline surface to get you off up higher into the sky. With that done, that is the trampoline recreated. Go ahead and try this out. You can try all sorts of things, such as different angles and different types of force, different angles of force, all sorts of crazy things going on. I've seen some great creations with this component. If you want to take a look at this setup, you can find the exact same component setup inside the trampoline. I copied the properties from the trampoline into this character force field because I knew it worked and I knew it felt kind of nice like a normal trampoline. Otherwise I'd have to play around with the values a lot and figure out what a nice force value was. I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.